بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise and thanks belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His servant and final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. At the beginning, Shaykh Ali, he said what he said before we prayed the witr. Like, in the reality is that the champions of this ummah are people like him, because they're the ones that are staying back, engaged with the community. I know it's very easy for me. Jump on a flight, come here, give a lesson, come back a month later. We make dua for Shaykh Ali and the team, the organization of this masjid. They're doing some fantastic work. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to strengthen them, to grant them goodness and acceptance in their work. And mashallah, every time I come here, it's actually me who contacts Shaykh Ali, and I try to come here because I love coming here. I love the organizers. I love the people in this masjid, and just something special when I come here. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He gather us all in a better place than this worldly life. That is the paradise. Ameen. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Shaykh Ali is the one who requested from me to speak about courage. And he suggested this topic: developing unshakable courage. And wallahi, the reality is, and I'm honest with this, I actually feel ashamed that I even accepted this topic. And I ask myself, do I even have the right to speak about courage when our brothers and sisters in Gaza have not only spoken words of courage, but they have shown the entire world what courage looks like? So where do I fit in all of this to be sitting here and talking to you about courage and how to build courage and how to develop courage? Really ashamed, Allah. But because this is a quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see in the believers, and we're supposed to encourage one another upon it, I said, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, I will come and share something of what I know. But the reality is that if I spoke 100 hours about what courage is, a 10-second video that comes out from the blessed land does a lot more than what a talk will do. Because that we see courage, and to see courage is a lot different than to listen to talks about courage. وَلَيْسَ مَنْ رَأَى كَمَنْ سَمِعَ. The one who sees is not like the one who hears. Yani, a mother that carries her lifeless newborn after trying 10 years to fall pregnant, and she says, "Oh Allah, take him, but as long as you are pleased with me." This is courage. Or the man that stands in the middle of the hospital, all bloodied, and people around him crying, and he's saying to them, "Don't cry. My son has been martyred as well." He's telling them, be men and face this calamity with the help of Allah. That's courage. Or the mother that is on top of her lifeless child, and she says, "I named you Yaqub so that you can have the patience of Yaqub," and he's dead. And she's saying that, "Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal granted me a bird from the birds of the paradise." She said, "That's always what I've wished for. And now finally her wish has come true." What is this? This is courage at its highest level. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep them firm and steadfast. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to also give us some of that courage that they have. Brothers and sisters in Islam, discussing the matter of courage, strength and bravery is really important, especially in this day and age. In this day and age where opposite to courage has become widespread. Opposite to courage is what? Al-jubn, cowardice. That's become widespread. People fall into sin very easily. People are very tempted by the fitna and they quickly fall into it. The vast majority of politicians around the world don't have courage to speak a word of truth. Cowardice has become widespread and it's infectious. If one person is coward, the other one will dare to do the same as the other, especially when there's no accountability and no one holds no one to account. Very easy to get away with cowardice today. Very easy. And so courage becomes important to discuss so that we're saved from this evil quality of al-jubn. A quality that even the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would seek Allah's protection from. Did you know that there was a companion by the name of Amr ibn Maymun? He said to us that Sa'ad radiyallahu anhu used to teach his children few words. And he used to teach them these words, which is a dua, just like a teacher will teach his students the Quran. Even he's teaching him what? From a young age. He's telling him that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to seek Allah's protection from a few things at the end of the salat before he makes a taslim. One of them was, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-jubn. Along other things, but this was one thing he said, Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from cowardice, that I become a coward. That's in a salat. This is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. And this Sa'ad radiyallahu anhu is teaching his child from a young age. What does that mean? It means that the quality of courage and bravery must be instilled in the hearts of young children. From a young age, it should be instilled within them. And as they grow, they continue to develop it and to refine it until it reaches a level that is what the believer is supposed to be upon. This is a quality that has to be instilled in young children. And its opposite must also be warned about and shown exactly how it is and what it is like, so that they don't fall into it. Brothers and sisters in Islam, we need courage in everything we do in life, not just on the battlefield. Courage is required when you're tempted by a sin. Do you have enough courage to back away and to keep away from this sin? It needs courage. The fitan that are around us, you need courage to not fall into them or to be tempted by them. The worship of Allah Azza wa Jal and standing in salat and worshipping Allah day and night requires courage. To speak a word of truth in a corrupt society requires immense courage and bravery. Facing the corruption of society and the fake, fabricated, false ideologies also requires courage, like Ibrahim alayhi salam. We'll share something of his story. Making firm decisions requires courage. If you don't have courage, you'll not be able to make firm decisions. especially in this day and age. This day and age of technology with chat GPT and other things. People now are relying on technology to make decisions for them. It's getting worse and worse. One day, Allahu A'lam when, the human mind will have no function. Many jobs are being cut because it's all being replaced by AI. AI will have less error. You see, the idea, courage is required to make a decision, and we'll see some examples of the Sahaba. Courage is also required when giving advice to one another. How many times have you seen something wrong and you could have spoken and you could have advised, but you held back? The reason was because you did not have courage. You did not have the strength of the heart to say and to advise the other person. Courage is required to defend your honor, to defend your wealth, to defend your family. That requires courage as well. Courage is required to be proud of your Islamic identity. There are so many Muslims that have covered their Islamic identity to the point where they have even changed their name. And that is a result of a lack of courage. If you want to be a proud Muslim in society, in the community, in the grounds of the university, in your school, in a Western country, then you need courage. You need courage to stand and to say, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا وَبِالْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَبِمُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ نَبِيًّا. That requires courage. That you confess and you publicly announce to the world that I am pleased with Allah as my Lord, and Islam as my religion, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as my prophet. That requires courage. Brothers and sisters in Islam, to be a leader and an effective leader, that also requires courage. To be someone who is going to revive the ummah and bring it out of its slumber and its sleep, that requires a leader with immense courage. So you see, I'm just listing a few things here to show you how important the quality of ash-shaja'ah, courage, bravery and strength, how important this quality is for the believer. And anyone who was successful in anything in life, behind it was a lot of courage. You will never be able to achieve success in anything without the quality of courage. And so we find that one of the greatest qualities of the believer that Allah Azza wa Jal loves and He praises is no doubt courage, strength and bravery of the heart first before the body. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Al-mu'minu al-qawiyyu ahabbu ila Allahi min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kullin khair." That the strong, let's say the courageous believer, the brave believer is better and more beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal than the weak believer. Even this is a quality Allah loves. And what Allah Azza wa Jal loves, we're supposed to be eager to achieve it in life. And as I said too, courage first and foremost is in the heart before it's anywhere on the limbs. If the heart has developed strength and courage, then it'll manifest on the body. Even if the body was very, very weak. And it'll manifest on the tongue, even if a person wasn't eloquent. Look at Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr, from among the companions, he had a very weak thin physique. He was very skinny. He was very weak in his body. To the point where he comes to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he says, Ya Rasulullah, my undergarment, it keeps slipping, it keeps falling. He was worried that he might be from those who are dragging his pants under his ankle out of arrogance. That's how weak he was. His undergarment wouldn't hold. It would keep slipping. Yet, from among the companions, he was the most courageous. Can you imagine when the news of the death of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam went around al-Madinah, and the giants of Islam like Umar radiallahu anhu were shaken to the point he denied the death of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He denied it. And not only this, he threatened anyone who says that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has died, that he will kill him. Uthman radiallahu anhu shakes and he falls to the ground. Ali radiallahu anhu the same. Sahaba are crying and no one knows what to do. Yet Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi that is weak in his body, but with the heart of a lion, an absolute courage and strength and bravery, climbs the pulpit, the mimbar of Rasulullah, and he says to Umar radiallahu anhu, sit down. Umar radiallahu anhu doesn't even respond to him. And then he recites unto the companions, reminding them of the word of Allah, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ وَمَنْ يَنْقَلِبْ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ. He said to them, مَنْ كَانَ يَعْبُدُ مُحَمَّدًا فَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدًا قَدْ مَاتَ وَمَنْ كَانَ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ. He said to them, people, anyone who has been worshipping Muhammad, then Muhammad has died, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And anyone who has worshipped Allah, then Allah is the all-living that never dies. You see that? He made a firm decision and he took leadership despite his weak body because he had courage in his heart. He said, I'm going to take it upon myself to stand and to confirm this upsetting news. Even though Umar radiallahu anhu's threat was serious. Anyone who spoke this word, I will kill him. But that's courage. You see, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had the courage. You need the courage to make the right decision. And at that moment, that was the toughest decision to ever make at that moment in history. To announce to the people that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam has actually died. Some of the ulama, rahimahumullah, they say that if Abu Bakr didn't do what he did, up until this day, we would have been debating whether he's dead or not, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But he saved us from that fitna with his courage. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam would instill this quality of courage in his companions. He would instill it in his companions from a young age. And because they were always around him, they developed this courage and they became leaders of this ummah, radiyallahu anhum. And the most courageous people that ever walked the face of this earth are who? Are the prophets and the messengers, alayhimus salatu wassalam. No doubt that even Allah Azza wa Jalla will say in the Quran, when He addressed Musa alayhi salam, He said to him, إِنِّي لَا يَخَافُ لَدَيَّ الْمُرْسَلُونَ. He said, my messengers are never afraid. Allah Azza wa Jalla was strengthening courage in Musa alayhi salam. When he threw the staff and it turned into a python, and he ran away from it. And Allah Azza wa Jal brought him back and said to him, grab it. And then he said to him, this is not befitting for prophets. لا يخاف لدي المرسلون. Don't have this quality of running away and being terrified. Grab it. لا يخاف لدي المرسلون. Allah Azza wa Jal strengthened his courage. So all prophets were the most courageous people on earth. You know why? Because they had to face the worst type of people. And they had to deliver the truth to them whether they liked it or not. They had to deliver the solid truth. The truth that there is only one Lord worthy of worship, and that they should follow me, which is that prophet at that time that existed. That requires courage. And each and every single one of them was successful in the mission Allah Azza wa Jal sent them for. So if we want to learn what courage is, it'll only make sense to look into the Quran, to look into the history, and to read the lives of prophets, and to carefully study their moments of courage. And that way, you will develop a deep understanding of how courage looks like, what it should be, at what time should it be executed, what kind of wisdom should accompany this courage, and so on. And from all the prophets, the most courageous of them all was Muhammadun sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Anas radiyallahu anhu, he says, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أشجع الناس. Allah, straight as it is the word. He said the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was the most courageous of mankind. Then Anas narrates a story that happened. He said one time the people were in Al-Madinah at night and there was a loud bang, a huge noise that people got scared. So when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam immediately took the horse of Abu Talha and it was unsaddled, he didn't even take time out to put the saddle on it. He jumped on an unsaddled horse and he took off with this horse, and he had his sword with him, and he headed directly to where the noise came from. And he caught up with some of the Sahaba that were going towards it. They were slow. He was faster and quicker and more courageous and more brave than them. Until he got to the outskirts of Al-Madinah, he made sure everything was fine. He came back to Al-Madinah and he said to the people, لَن تَرَاعُوا لَن تَرَاعُوا. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Settle down, calm down, everyone go back home, there's nothing. Shuf the courage. He went alone. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imran ibn Husayn radiyallahu anhu, he says, ما لقي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كتيبة إلا كان أول من يضرب. He said the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam never met the enemy except that he was the first one to strike. He was the first to strike sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Courage, bravery. وابن عمر رضي الله عنه, he said, ما رأيت أحدا أشجع من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, I had never ever come across anyone in my life that was as courageous and as brave as the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even though Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu lived many years after the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. No, he never came across anyone that had a drop of the courage of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, we have plenty of examples in our deen of courageous men that if we were only to look into their seerah and read their story, slowly and slowly we develop courage within ourselves. Brothers and sisters in Islam, as I shared with you at the beginning, this topic can go in any direction, right? We can sit for hours and speak how a person is supposed to develop courage when it comes to sins and fitan and evil and temptation. Then we can speak about courage concerning leadership. Then we can speak about courage concerning the corruption in society. And there are many, many aspects. I'll share with you a few things, and then we'll conclude the talk with practical advice on how the believer develops and strengthens courage. If you were to observe the situation of Yusuf alayhi salam and the fitna that he was put in, which is Imra'atul Aziz, the wife of Al-Aziz, when she came to seduce him, and she had done a really good job in preparing herself, locking all the doors, and she was a beautiful woman as well. And she's saying to him, Hayta lak, I am prepared for you. Imagine what type of fitna this is. And he is the best looking person at that time. That doesn't help in the fitna as well. But he had courage to stand against this fitna. How did he do it? قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. The first thing he did was to turn to Allah, seeking Allah's protection. He said, Ma'adh Allah. Allah save me, Allah protect me. Because you on your own, you cannot do anything. He said, Ma'adh Allah, teaching you and I, that when we're ever tempted by a sin and by a temptation that is evil, one of the ways to face it with courage is to rush to the help of Allah Azza wa Jalla and to say Ma'adh Allah, to say A'udhu Billah, to remember Allah Azza wa Jalla. For indeed, the one who remembers Allah Azza wa Jalla in the face of a sin, by the permission of Allah, will be granted courage, strength and bravery to turn away from this sin. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, وَلَا يَثْقُلُ مَعَ اسْمِ اللَّهِ شَيْءٍ. Nothing can outweigh the name of Allah. So if on one side of the scale was the name of Allah and you seeking Allah's protection, and on the other side of the scale was the sin and the evil temptation, then your dhikr of Allah will outweigh the sin will fly away, and Allah will grant you strength and courage to turn away from it. Then he said, إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَاي. He said, my Lord has indeed always been kind and good and merciful and gentle with me. He remembered Allah's favor upon him. So he said, how does it make sense that all the favors Allah bestowed upon me and all the goodness He has been for me, that I now step into this realm of sin and fitan? That's another thing that you're supposed to be remembering in the face of a sin, to develop that courage and bravery to keep away from it. Then he said, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal does not grant success to the wrongdoers. He reminded himself, he gave an advice to himself. He's saying to himself, if I commit zina, that is dhulm, that is a wrongdoing. And the wrongdoers, Allah does not grant them success. So it's like he has an internal discussion with himself. I want success. So if you want success, keep away from the sin. If you're not interested in success, go ahead and do the sin. Very simple. So these are three things he said that strengthened his heart and the courage and the bravery in his heart to keep away from the sin. What was the first one? Ma'adh Allah, seeking Allah's protection. And each and every single one of us, when you're tempted by a sin, there is absolutely no doubt that you know Allah is watching. Because if you don't, then you're a disbeliever. You know that. So take advantage of that feeling by saying Ma'adh Allah, Astaghfirullah, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Utter out these words. Don't conceal, don't hide and suppress that feeling of Allah watching. That's the alarm that Allah put inside of you. Utter it on your tongue. Number two, remember Allah's favors upon you. If you want them, keep away from the sin. And number three, remember, the path of sin leads to no success. You want success, keep away. Three things that will help strengthen and develop courage in the heart so that you keep away from a sin and from transgression. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Yusuf alayhi salam, afterwards, he ran away from the sin, right? He ran away towards the door. And eventually, the husband of that woman opened the door. And you know what she said? She said, ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. She blamed him. She said, what is the punishment of the one who wanted to do evil and wrong for your family members? Except that he should be imprisoned or he should face a severe punishment. See what she's saying? She's blamed him now. A courageous person will defend himself, will defend his honor. He stood there and he said, هي راودتني عن نفسي. She's the one that seduced me towards her. It wasn't me, it was her. That requires courage. And I told you, courage is required and it's necessary to defend your honor and your wealth and your family and your religion. He didn't just stand there and say, oh, I better just keep it quiet because this is the royal ruling family. They'll do whatever they want with me. So might as well just keep shut and face the consequences. No. Defend your honor. Have some courage. And so he stood there and he said, هي راودتني عن نفسي. That requires courage. Nuh alayhi salam, he was building an ark in the middle of the desert. And it never made sense to anyone that passed by him. What are you doing? Building an ark from only nails and wood. That's it. ذات ألواح ودسر. And a hammer that is knocking the nails into the wood and bringing this ark together. And it's a huge ark. And he's building it on sand. You see, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, وَكُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْهُ. Every time a group of His people that He was sent to, that are still disbelievers, every time they passed by Him, سَخِرُوا مِنْهُ. They mocked Him. They mocked Him. What are you building? What are you building? Why are you building it here? The ocean's there. You know, and making mockery and insulting him and abusing him. Nuh alayhi salam did not say, you know what, خلاص, نحن we're believers and we're supposed to just cop the verbal abuse and let's get back to work and let's not worry about it. Let's keep getting flogged. No, he wasn't like this. Courage and bravery would suggest otherwise. You know what he did? Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, قَالَ إِن تَسْخَرُوا مِنَّا فَإِنَّا نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ. He said to them, if you continuously mock me, then I will be mocking you as well. What did He mock of them? They mocked the fact that He was building an ark in the desert. He's building it by the command of Allah. He knows it's the truth. So He began to mock them and their worship of their idols. You people, have you seen your ridiculousness? You're worshipping a stone that cannot even hear you. It cannot even speak. You go and slaughter to it. You make dua and you cry to it. You people are silly. Are you people crazy? And He began to mock them concerning that which they have adhered to as a faith, because it deserves to be mocked. What is this? You've left Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of the worlds, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and you turn to a stone that if it was pushed, it's not able to pull itself up and stand once again. So He began to mock them in the same way they mock Him. And that requires courage. It requires courage and bravery and strength. Now, Hud alayhi salam, another example. He is sent to his people. He preaches to them. the true deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, the oneness of Allah. And they say to him, إِن نَقُولُ إِلَّا اعْتَرَاكَ بَعْضُ آلِهَتِنَا بِسُوءٍ. They abused him as well. They said, Hud, this message that you're telling us, this oneness of Allah and worshipping Allah and obeying His command and whatever it is that you're saying, we think that this is the effect of our idols upon you. They have possessed you. That's why you've become crazy and you're speaking words of insanity. إِن نَقُولُ إِلَّا اعْتَرَاكَ بَعْضُ آلِهَتِنَا بِسُوءٍ. Our idols have possessed you. And that's why you're speaking what you're speaking. Now, courage and bravery kicks in. What do you see in this moment? He's among a filthy society, a corrupt society. People that have false ideologies, just like our time. If people are not actually worshipping a stone today, then every ism that exists other than Islam is an idol. It's an idol. And he said to them, look at the courage. إِنِّي أُشْهِدُ اللَّهِ وَاشْهَدُوا أَنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ مِن دُونِهِ فَكِيدُونِي جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ لَا تُنظِرُونَ. He said to them, listen, I appoint Allah as a witness, and for you also to witness that I declare innocence from that which you worship besides Allah. I declare innocence from it. This is false. This is a fabrication. This is all lies. See, the courageous person faces the corruption in his society and condemns it all and says it's all a lie and it's all a fabrication. Then he added to this. He did not fear their threats. He said, فَكِيدُونِي جَمِيعًا. He said, go, all of you gather up and make the most evil plan against me. ثُمَّ لَا تُنظِرُونَ. Don't even give me time. Go right now. Sit in your headquarters. Plot and plan the entire day and night against me in terms of what you want to do and how you want to get rid of me. Don't give me any time. Go and do that right now. ثُمَّ لَا تُنظِرُونَ. I don't care. إِنِّي تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ رَبِّي وَرَبِّكُمْ. Where did this courage come from? How did he face them with such powerful words? The reason was تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ رَبِّي وَرَبِّكُمْ. I have indeed put my trust and reliance on my Lord and your Lord. ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيتها. There is not a single moving creature on earth except that Allah Azza wa Jal has full control of its forelock. Allah controls it all. Things are in Allah's hand. You can plan and plot whatever you want, but at the end of the day, nothing happens without Allah's permission. And that's what we say to our enemy as well. فَكِيدُونِي جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ لَا تُنظِرُونَ. بإذن الله, us as believers, توكلنا على الله. ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيتها. Why do we rely on Allah? Because we know that nothing can move without the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And then he said to them, my Lord is upon a straight path. What does that mean? Allah is upon a straight path, meaning Allah is fair and just in every decree He has decreed. So go ahead. Whatever you do, whatever you decree, and whatever you do to me, I am happy and pleased with it. Because I know this is not oppression of Allah against me. This would be Allah's justice. How? What's not got to do with you, the how part. Us as believers, we just believe. That's it. We move on. And we surely know that everything Allah decrees is by wisdom and ultimate knowledge of His subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, in Ibrahim alayhi salam, there is a great example. And Ibrahim, Allah commands him to leave his newborn child and his wife in an uncultivated valley in Mecca. It requires immense courage to make a decision and to say, I'm going to leave my family in a place of certain death and I'm going to walk away. Without question. Ibrahim alayhi salam could have said, no, I'm not going to do that. Where's the sense in all of that? Where's the wisdom in that? But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he made a firm decision that yes, I am going to go ahead and leave my family in the desert and walk away from them. Why? Because this is Allah's command, and whatever comes from Allah is the truth. There cannot be any harm in it. It's the truth. That's all I'm concerned of. It came from Allah, I'll do it. See, Ibrahim alayhi salam is teaching us, in order to implement Allah's command in life, it requires courage. In order to preserve your Islamic identity in society, it requires courage. That's Allah's command for us. In order to obey the commandment of al-hijab and to conceal your awrah, it requires courage. That's a commandment of Allah. It requires courage. And then even later on, when Allah would command him to slaughter his son, he is ready to do so. That's his courage. If he had no courage, he will not be able to execute the commandment of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why Ibrahim alayhi salam became a role model for all of us. قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ. And the only prophet that we were told to follow in his legacy was who? Ibrahim. أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. Follow the legacy of Ibrahim, which was to uphold at-tawheed and the commandment of Allah Azza wa Jal in his life. Even up until this day, when people go to Al-Umrah, right? What is a part of the Umrah that is ascribed to Ibrahim? To pray 2 rak'at behind what? Maqam Ibrahim. You know why? You see, the Maqam of Ibrahim, what's in it? What is in it? His footprint. Millions and millions of people, they push and shove each other just to see his footprint. Not his foot, his footprint. Who is this man? Alayhi salam. And even the footprint, 80% of it has faded away. There's only like 20%, and even that 20% we cannot even see. They've put a metal covering around it to protect whatever remains of it. Who's this man? People are fighting just to see 20% of his footprint. So we pray 2 rak'at behind the maqam, refreshing this covenant that we are upon the path of Ibrahim in terms of at-tawheed and his absolute submission to Allah's command, no matter how heavy it was. That requires courage. It requires strength and bravery of the heart to implement the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal. Next time you feel undecided about the commandment of Allah, remember Ibrahim. Allah commanded him with things that you and I will never ever be commanded to do. Our commandments are way less. What are our commandments? Salli 5 prayers a day. We'll fast Ramadan, we're almost finished. 2.5% of your wealth. We'll Hajj if you can. And there's a specific dress code, just adhere to it. And there are specific foods, keep away from it. Drinks, keep away from it. Khalas, that's it. Bas, that's it. So, whenever you're undecided about the commandment of Allah, you remember Ibrahim alayhi salam. You'll develop that strength and that courage that you're able to implement this commandment of Allah Azza wa Jal in your life. And when we speak about courage, you're supposed to understand that courage is not silliness. It's not stupidity. Some people label courage or stupid actions as courage. Courage must be coupled with wisdom. You need to have wisdom with courage. Not every brief scene you see is courage. Courage must be with wisdom. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he stood on the field of Badr, ready for the war, the battle of Badr, he wore 2 iron vests Two, not one, two. He was brave, he was courageous, but at the same time, he take precaution. When the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam migrated from Mecca to Al-Madinah, he didn't just walk out and say, people, I'm leaving. That didn't happen. And you know, this is ascribed to Umar radiallahu anhu, but even then, the narration is questionable. And most likely he did not do that. He didn't just stand and announce to Quraysh, I'm leaving. Whoever wants his child to be orphaned, follow me. La, Allahu alam, this is not an authentic narration. Nonetheless, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would leave Mecca silently. And he would hide in a cave with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu for the next 3 days. And instead of going straight up to Al-Madinah, he went the opposite way to deceive Quraysh. And then he made his way up to Al-Madinah. Bravery, courage, but coupled with wisdom. Wisdom is very important when practicing courage. Even the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam teaches us these matters. He says, "Man kadhama ghayzan wa huwa qadirun ala an yunafidhahu da'ahu Allah yawm al-qiyamati hatta yukhayyirahu min al-huri ma sha'." Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever suppresses anger while he was able to execute it, you became angry, and rightfully so. Someone wronged you, someone oppressed you, someone screamed at you, whatever it is. And you had every right to be angry, and you even had the ability and the power to execute it, but you suppressed and you held yourself back, because that requires courage. On the Day of Judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will call this person, and He'll allow him to select and choose from al-hur al-ayn whatever he wants. Even the idea of the hadith is teaching us that courage is not always going out and showing your physical might and strength and your sharpness of the tongue upon mankind. Be wise. That is not always its courage. Sometimes it's courage, sometimes it's not. You assess the situation. Now, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, once he entered the masjid and he saw the companions wrestling, and he said to them, "Man ash-shadidu fikum?" Who's the most courageous and strong one upon you or among you? Yeah, obviously they said the one that can wrestle the other and drop him down to the ground. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he fixed their understanding, he corrected their understanding altogether. He said, "Laysa ash-shadidu bis-sur'ah." The courageous, brave, strong one is not the one who can wrestle the other to the ground. And this is a very important point to mention, because many people today think that's what bravery and courage is. Especially in this day and age of wrestling and boxing and UFC and whatever it is. And people like that and watch that and follow it and are entertained by it and believe that the brave one is the one who can drop the other. That's not the case. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam corrected this understanding. And he said, "Ash-shadidu alladhi yamliku nafsahu 'inda al-ghadab." The brave and the courageous one is the one who's able to control himself in a moment of anger. That's courage. That's not weakness. Unfortunately, today it's seen as weakness. But we don't care about people's perspective. We care about what the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us. Controlling yourself in a moment of anger, especially among your family. Because you are tested the most among your family, more than anywhere else. Every single day perhaps, you have a chance to be a brave, courageous one. And that is by holding back your anger. Now, and finally, I share with you a couple of points on how to develop courage. Bismillah, it won't take long. Number one, a means in how to strengthen and develop this courage is al-imanu bil-qada'i wal-qadar. To have absolute firm belief, rock solid belief in the divine decree of Allah Azza wa Jal. To know that every good and every evil is in the hand of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and He chooses according to His wisdom and knowledge. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in his advice to Ibn Abbas, he said to him, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. You better know really well, young boy, that anything that strikes you was never meant to miss you. And everything of calamity that missed you was never meant to get you anyway. So you need to have absolute firm belief in al-qada wal-qadar. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, if the entire ummah was together to harm you with something, they will never be able to harm you except with that which Allah has written for you. And if they all gathered to benefit you, they will not be able to benefit you except by that which Allah has written for you. See, the matters are all in the hands of Allah. When this aqeedah, when this belief is deep within your heart, you will have courage to face this world with all its trials and tribulations, because you're facing it with a firm belief that no matter what happens, it's all decreed by Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا. Say that nothing will harm us, no calamity will afflict us except that which Allah has written for us. And perhaps this is the secret of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. That strength and that courage, it is all stemming from a correct belief they have. The one who has this belief bil qada'i wal qadar will begin to utter words like what we are hearing. نعم, لأن Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ كَيْدُهُمْ شَيْئًا. If you remain patient and you have taqwa of the heart, their harm will never, or the evil will never harm you. And it's not. Has their evil, has the enemy's evil harmed them? No, it hasn't. And don't, say, I'll tell you something. They maybe have harmed their bodies. No problem. The harming of the body is actually an elevation and purification for the person until he becomes a martyr. But have they harmed their iman? No. This is what the ayah means. That if you remain firm, patient, and committed upon taqwa, obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, their evil planning will not harm you one bit. لا يضركم كيدهم شيئا. That means that they will not be able to affect your iman and your belief in Allah. Rather, it will only become stronger and stronger. Subhanallah. An ayah in the Quran, and we see it in real life. What is the point of having healthy body and it's all intact, but there's no iman in here? What's the point? If the enemy was to spare all of us, but remove iman from our heart, then we have failed. And if they did bodily damage, but iman still resides in the heart, then we have succeeded on every front and on every level. Understand very well this point. So that's how you develop courage and strength, by having this firm belief that what happens is by the permission of Allah and no one else. شوف the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. Watch this. Watch this. After a battle, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam took rest under a tree. Hadith sahih. He slept under a tree. And one of the disbelievers managed to get to him. And he went silently in a stealth manner, and he took the sword of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that was hanging on the tree. And he took the sword out of its sheath. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam woke up to this scene, and this disbeliever said to him, "Man yamna'uka minni?" Who's going to prevent you from me now? You know what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said? He said to him, Allah. Bas, one word. Another narration, he repeated it 3 times. Allah, Allah, Allah. Khalas, belief. Look at the courage. Because the belief is correct. So what happens is that the sword drops from the hand of this disbeliever. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam takes it, and he says to him, he'll prevent you from me. And then he began, Ya Rasulullah, Anta, you're the most kind and the most generous or forgiving. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam let him go. But you see, when proper Iman is in the heart, and in a moment of adversity and calamity, you're able to scream out the word Allah. This is courage. Where did this courage come from? From that proper belief that's in the heart. The one who doesn't know Allah, doesn't know al-Iman bil-Qada wal-Qadar, who will not be able to say this in a moment of adversity and calamity. He won't. Well, subhanAllah, if you were to reflect over the situation of the magicians at the time of Fir'aun, you see the magicians, Fir'aun, he came to them after they had accepted Islam and Iman. And he said to them, he didn't just say, I'm going to punish you all. He described and he detailed the punishment. He said, لَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ وَلَتَعْلَمُنَّ أَيُّنَا أَشَدُّ عَذَابًا وَأَبْقَى. شوف. He said to them, I'm going to take you one by one. I'm going to chop your hands and your feet off on opposite sides. So the left leg with the right hand, or the right hand with the left leg. Then after that, I'm going to take your bodies and I'm going to pin it, nail it to the trunk of the palm tree. And then you will see who had the upper hand in punishment and intense torture. There's a difference between saying to a person, I'll punish you, and then going into detail and explaining how you're going to mutilate him and how you're going to punish him and how you're going to humiliate him and hang him onto the... And that's Fir'aun. He's saying that. Can he do that? And he can do that as well. He has the power and the might to do so. Look at the magicians. They have only enjoyed less than 1 hour of Iman. Recently, they just accepted Iman. Look at the courage. When Iman has settled in the heart, look at the courage on the tongue. They said to him, لن نؤثرك على ما جاءنا من البينات والذي فطرنا. He said, Fir'aun, listen, we will not prefer you over what has come to us of the clear proofs, and we will not prefer you over our Lord, our Creator. فَقْضِ مَا أَنْتَ قَاضٍ. Do as you wish. Do what you like. Cut the fingers as well. Do what you want. فَقْضِ مَا أَنْتَ قَاضٍ. إِنَّمَا تَقْضِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. The only thing you can do is decide our fate in this life. That's it, bas, khalas. Once the moment where the soul comes out, you got no control after that. Do what you want. Allahu Akbar. What is this courage? Where did this courage come from? But they've only been Muslims 1 hour, not even, less. But I tell you, once Iman in Allah penetrates into that heart and mixes with the heart, khalas, it takes over a person. A person will begin to radiate with courage and bravery and strength. So that's what I'm saying to you. The first and foremost way to develop and strengthen courage is proper Iman in Allah Azza wa Jal. Each and every single one of us needs to review his heart and the Iman that resides in his heart. Do you really believe? Do you really believe in your heart? Wallah, is it just belief on the tongue? Because the hypocrites also believe on their tongue. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا. Iman is here. It resides in He. Test yourself. And these calamities and adversities, they come to test that Iman. That's what they come to do. They come to test it. So always be alert and aware and ready. When the adversity and the calamity hits, we do not prefer anything over Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's how you can become courageous in that moment. Number 2, to read the story of courageous men and courageous women. Seerah is filled with that. Alhamdulillah. Now I know sometimes we read the stories because we want to understand the events in the story. We want to read the story of Adam to learn the events, what happened. But have a different read of the seerah altogether. Read the seerah of the prophets and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, focusing just on courage and bravery and strength. Wallahi, you will get so much. And when you read, your mind is saying to you that I just want to follow and see where the courage and bravery is. You'll be shocked to see how much you will learn from a story you knew since you were 5 years old. Read it with this lens. I'm reading to extract courage and bravery from this. You will find almost in every seerah incident and event, some sort of courage and bravery lies within it. So reading the story of the courageous will no doubt instill and strengthen courage in you. Number 3, to be sincere in all that which you do and you say. Look, when you do a deed and you're sincere and you're doing it only for Allah, you will have courage. Because now you will not care about what people say and what their opinion of you would be. You with me on this point? When you're sincere in your words and in your actions, that means you've made Allah your main concern. So now you don't care what people are going to say and what they're going to criticize you with. When you see wrong and you're encouraged to condemn it and to advise the one that is doing, remind yourself, I am going to say a word of truth for the sake of Allah. So Allah is your focus. So you know that's going to earn you His pleasure. That's how you develop strength and courage, because now you no longer care about people and what they're going to say and what criticism they're going to throw at you. Unlike the one who does the deed without sincerity, the one who does the deed and speaks the word for the people, what happens? He will never be able to develop courage. Why? Because he's made people the center of his attention. So he's always on the look. Are people going to like what I say? Are people going to be disturbed by what I say? And he assesses it based on that. So he'll avoid the nasihah. He'll avoid taking a firm decision among the people. He'll avoid what it is just so that he doesn't heed the criticism of people. So no doubt sincerity in everything you do will strengthen and develop courage in your heart. You will not care about anyone. And this is a quality Allah highlights about the believers. Where? In Surah Al-Ma'idah, when He said, يُجَاهِدُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. They do not fear the blame of the blamer. Meaning they don't fear the criticism of the losers. They do not fear the criticism of others. They don't care. They did their deed for Allah Azza wa Jal. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله. Those who deliver the message of Allah and they fear Him and they don't fear anyone else. You see that? So sincerity. So we said number 1, Iman in al-Qada wal-Qadar. We said number 2, to read the story of the courageous, read the story of the prophets with the lens of extracting their courage and bravery. Number 3, to be sincere in everything that you do, so Allah becomes the center of your attention, and as a result, strength, courage and bravery strengthens in the heart. Number what? 4, ask Allah for courage and strength. Musa alayhi salam, when he was on the mountain and he became scared and worried and concerned and he panicked and he turned and he ran away from the mountain when his staff became a snake. You know what he did? He made dua. He said, and not only this, but when Allah said to him, go to Fir'aun, he said, Rabbi inni akhaf an yukaththibun. He said, Lord, I'm afraid that they will reject my message. وَيَضِيقُ صَدْرِي. And I am afraid that I might have an anger problem. وَلَا يَنْطَلِقُ لِسَانِي. And as a result, I will not be able to be eloquent in my speech. فَأَرْسِلْ إِلَى هَارُونَ. Send this mission to Harun. وَلَهُمْ عَلَيَّ ذَنْبٌ فَأَخَافُ أَنْ يَقْتُلُونَ. And they've got one crime written against me, that I killed one man in the city. So I fear that they might take up revenge and kill me. So I'm not up for all this. He was discouraged. And what did he do? He made dua. رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. My Lord, expand my chest so that I don't get angry. اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. Ease my affairs. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي. And untie the knots of my tongue so that I speak eloquently and deliver the message. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. So that they understand the message. وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. And appoint a minister for me from my family. هارون أخي, my brother Harun. اشتد به أزري. Strengthen my arm with him. Meaning strengthen me with him. وأشركه في أمري, and involve him in my affair. كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. Allah gave him what he asked. Then he had the courage. Then he went and faced Fir'aun, and he brought him the truth in his palace. For dua is very important, and this is from the most important of a dua. When you're, see, some people have beautiful, wonderful advice to share with others. Some people have exceptional skills. But, subhanAllah, the community doesn't benefit from them because they don't have the courage to stand and to speak, to stand and to take up a leadership position. Well, this is a weakness. How long do you stay like this? Allah blessed you with a skill. Allah blessed you with a thought, an idea. Allah blessed you with speech that is moving, that could change the people's lives. And you held back because inni akhaf, I fear. How am I going to stand? How am I going to speak? How am I going to lead? How am I going to do this and to do that? Overcome all this with a dua you make to Allah Azza wa Jal. And then afterwards, you pursue in that which you intended of good. And be sincere in that. And you watch, slowly and slowly, courage and bravery would strengthen in your heart. And last one, to be around courageous people. Courage is contagious. So if you're around those who are brave and courageous, it will rub onto you and you will take from it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, just like the companions. They were around the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He's the most courageous, and they took from his courage sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So be around and among that kind of companionship. Put your children in those kind of circles. And of course, MIA is celebrating 10 years of serving the community. Wonderful programs, fantastic programs. They're the ones that requested a lecture on courage because that's the main vision they have for the youth of the next generation. So I find this a fantastic place, not only for the brothers, but there's also for the sisters as well. And the courage is for both men and women. SubhanAllah, we did not elaborate and mention things of the courage and the bravery of women. But of course, there are many examples of this. But the idea is, immerse yourself in these type of environments. Put your children in that. Insha'Allah ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal will grant them success in this life, in the afterlife. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept from us all, to make us people that are courageous in moments in where courage is required. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us wisdom and beneficial knowledge. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us victory and success. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.